It all began on May 9th, 2004, and since then had only increased in intensity with every passing year. That's not entirely true, but we're going to go with it for the sake of dramatics. The insanity that is the vote for America's favorite player, sometimes referred to as the vote for favorite Survivor player, Sprint Player of the Season, or Sprint Speed Player of the Season, has incited what must be known as the former Great Stand Wars. It is ceaseless and is not a subject to be trifled with. However, unlike with Big Brother, it's an outdated topic in the realm of Survivor, and therefore I don't tread as lightly in this video as we have not seen a fan favorite vote in nearly a decade. Also, Sprint got bought out by T-Mobile. Perhaps in today's age, social media would only boost the fan favorite vote's popularity. But then, perhaps it's best we let sleeping dogs lie. Regardless, in the immortal words of Jeff Probst, but first, want to know what you're playing for? $1 million, baby! Ladies and gents, internet, my name is Peridiam, and this is going to be the long history of America's favorite player on Survivor. Indeed, it began in the year 2004, May 9th, at the reunion of Survivor Season 8 All-Stars, when a massive fan vote was announced where one player in the cast would win $1 million for simply being the most likable. Never mind starving and outplaying your peers for 39 days, forget all that nonsense. This was all about popularity. Survivor even held its own episode dedicated to this one vote. Could you get more extra? 4 days after the All-Stars reunion, everyone returned to the stage for the only time in Survivor history where Jeff Probst ran down a list of random topics, superlatives, giving out imaginary awards such as Best Villain or Best Moment or Hottest Stud, before narrowing down the favorite Survivor All-Star vote to just 4 people: Colby Donaldson, Big Tom Buchanan, Boston Rob Mariano, and Rupert. Oh, I love that guy with the beard and the tie-dye. I remember him.
According to America, 38 million votes say the favorite Survivor All-Star is Rupert.
Yeah, Rupert won the vote with around 26% of the total votes cast across the 18 players, receiving 38 million votes total. And if you're doing the math, which I'm trying to do right now in my head, that would mean that over 150 million votes were cast in this fan favorite vote. Only 8 countries in the world as of today have a larger population than that. He's the only player who will be featured in this video to receive the same amount of money as the winner of their season, despite not actually winning. After Survivor All-Stars from season 9 to 11, the fan favorite vote disappeared. I'm not sure why. I guess the producers didn't care to repeat the spectacle given they weren't all-star seasons. However, it's worth noting that up to season 11, the winner of each season was awarded a General Motors car on top of the $1 million check. But that changed in season 12, Panama. Instead of simply getting a car for winning, a new vote was held before the reunion for favorite Survivor player, and whoever won the vote would receive said car. The one and only Cirie Fields ran away with the vote in the first ever normal fan vote, as she was probably the most relatable player to most of the fans. You can't trust leaves. After season 12, General Motors dropped their sponsorship, but Ford stepped up for season 13 and 14, replicating the same fan vote prize at the end of the season, as we saw Ozzy triumph over Yule in Cook Islands, winning the fan award with less than 1% of a difference between these two titans. I'm not surprised Ozzy won. His challenge prowess seems unparalleled, and it's not like Yule is a slouch of a competitor either. He had competition. However, what does surprise me is that this fan vote for this season only was labeled as a vote not for favorite player, but for most clever game. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm guessing people just ignore that part, but whatever, it's worth pointing out.
And once again, this vote was extremely close, and it came down to, of course, Yule and Ozzy. This time, the winner was Ozzy. Congratulations.
Oddly, in season 14, Fiji, the fan vote was absent from this season. I've heard a bunch of theories as to why that is. Perhaps because Ford dropped their sponsorship, perhaps because of the Yao-Man and Dreams debacle, where a player leveraged a car reward during the season to strategically get ahead. Perhaps it didn't seem fitting to reward more cars after everything that was going down. Using a sponsor as a strategy. Game changer? Either way, the fan favorite vote didn't happen this season, so we move on. Season 15, Survivor China in 2007 is where the fan favorite vote is reborn, where the sponsor Sprint, a phone company, created the Sprint Speed Player of the Season award, mimicking the previous fan vote car awards that we saw with Suri and Ozzy, only this time awarding $100,000, a tenth of the prize that Rupert won, to the player whom the fans selected as their favorite. Also worth noting that this is the same amount of money that a runner-up receives on the show, so there's now a new element in play each season. If you're liked by the fans, you can basically lock up the cash prize of second place, regardless of how well you do. James won this after being a big, lovable, albeit strategically questionable player who was larger than life and overall really popular. He beat out Lunch Lady Denise and PG to take the first ever Sprint fan favorite vote, and then follow his win up with the next season, season 16 Micronesia, Fans versus Favorites, where 10 of James's biggest fans got to play Survivor against James himself, and then at the end of the season reward him by voting on their Sprint Palm Prix with a second fan favorite award. Okay, not exactly, but James did return to play a second season, placed on the favorites tribe, of course, and he was medically evacuated from the season at the final 7. On top of already being popular from China, his unfortunate emergency, as well as still being his regular self, all of these likely aided in his clinching a second back-to-back fan favorite award. $200K in 2 seasons. Not bad.
One of you is about to win $100,000. Courtesy of Sprint, and I must say, not a bad payday for just being popular. And the person whose bank account just got fatter is James. The winner of the $100,000, courtesy of Sprint, goes to James. Back-to-back seasons.
In season 17, Gabon, we saw the winner of the season also win the fan favorite award, meaning Bob went on to win $1,100,000 in one night, as well as his appearance fee for being there, which is ridiculous. Bob, what do you have to say for yourself?
This has been a big night for Bob. And virtually no reaction. Somebody yank on that bow tie, see if Bob's still awake. Yeah, it's really great, and I just want to thank everybody for the support. And if you need to know how to tie a bow tie, go to my website, bob.com from me.
Bob beat out Sugar, who came in second, and Maddie, who took third in this vote, as Gabon was a cast full of misfits, and Bob was the likable older guy who just kind of reminded you of your high school science teacher, which, for some people out there, he may have been. Right after this, in season 18, Tocantins, we saw JT, a young cattle rancher from Alabama, repeat Bob's success by winning the season and the fan favorite vote ahead of Taj and Sierra. If you've seen this season, you will know JT was a popular player with this cast, and I guess the narrative reflected that rather accurately given the rest of the country followed in tow. And then we get a disturbance in the force. On season 19, Samoa, the vote result was flipped on its head. You mean from the jury vote? No, talking about the kind of player who would win the fan favorite award. We saw Russell Hantz, one of the biggest villains in Survivor history, take the prize over Shambo and Brett. Up to this point, all of the winners had been positively portrayed players, so to see Russell win as a major villain changed the perspective of this vote quite dramatically. It almost appeared as a vote of respect, and I think in some ways would mark a change in how the audience would perceive the outcome of a season. Follow that up with season 20, Heroes versus Villains, and we see Russell overtake the first fan favorite in Survivor history, Rupert, the growling pirate tie-dye dude, in a showdown of good versus evil, with Russell coming out on top in the vote. Russell then raised the notion, given how we now lost the game back-to-back, but won the popular vote, perhaps the audience should have a stake in deciding the winner.
I'll give you 10 seconds to tell me the flaw.
What needs to happen is America needs to have a percentage of the votes.
Brother, all Our show is not that. Our show is very clearly defined in that you take a group of people, you put them in one situation, you vote out people, and in the end, the last group, that jury, decides who they think deserves it. This isn't a game in which you include America. That's a different game. So you haven't won this game. Maybe you would win that game.
Fortunately for the game, but unfortunately for Russell, that idea would get shot down rather quickly and never see the light of day. In season 21, Nicaragua, Jane, an older lady from North Carolina, took the fan favorite vote in a landslide victory. According to Jeff, nobody else was even close. Jane won by the biggest margin we had ever seen in any fan favorite vote thus far. Wow. I'm a bit surprised Fabio or Holly didn't stand a chance, but I'm guessing given the shift in audience perception after Russell, it would be difficult to respect Fabio's game. Meanwhile, Holly probably suffered a bit from the betrayal of Jane at the final 6, as it was pretty darn brutal. From season 21 onward, Jeff enjoys giving us more insight into the results of each vote. As we see on season 22, Redemption Island, Boston Rob takes the cake with 40% of the vote, compared to the runner-up Matt, who had 36%. Which is kind of wild with how these two encapsulated 76% of the votes across 18 players. Feels a little too lopsided. But I can't say I'm surprised to see the guy who pulled off all the blindsides take out the guy who was blindsided twice. Season 23, South Pacific, was a one-way race between Ozzy, the guy who won the car 10 seasons prior in Cook Islands, and nobody else. Because apparently he won by the biggest margin ever, even larger than Jane from 2 seasons prior, which means Ozzy holds the record. Ozzy went on a massive Redemption Island duel winning spree and was a 3-time returning player who almost won the season and was also a prior fan favorite, and yeah, perfect recipe, easy layup, done deal. And I guess it's worth mentioning, Cochran came in second. In season 24, One World, we were presented with the top 4 vote getters for the Fan Fave Award between Kim, Troyzan, Tarzan, and Chelzan. A lot of Zans. No joke, there were guys named Tarzan and Troyzan in the same season. What are the odds? But yeah, kind of like in the season itself, Kim clean swept the vote, but apparently it wasn't significant enough to be remarkable, at least going by Jeff's reaction. Now season 25, Philippines, is the second to last fan favorite vote we will ever see, but it might just be the most shocking in my opinion, as even today I am still surprised when I come across this statistic. Lisa Welchel, the child star who was the runner-up on this season, narrowly edged out Malcolm by 0.7% of a difference between the two. At one point, Malcolm had the lead and they were within 200 votes of each other, but I guess Lisa's story stole the show. Given how popular Malcolm would go on to be, I am shocked that he lost here.
A few tense moments in there, but you won fair and square and didn't lose your marbles.
But then we get to the final fan favorite vote thus far in season 26, Caramoan Fans versus Favorites 2. Kind of fitting it would end on a season full of favorites, and on the heels of Malcolm losing this award no less, we go on to see a tight race between Malcolm and Brenda from Nicaragua as they battle it out with a margin of roughly 1% between the two of them. Kind of like in Redemption Island where Rob and Matt took up 76% of the vote and were within 4% of a difference between the two, Malcolm and Brenda took up 71%, which is also kind of shocking given how invisible Brenda was all season, only really showing up at like the 11th hour in the story. Malcolm won the final vote with 36% to Brenda's 35%, but I think more than anything, in the case of Brenda, it goes to show how leaving a lasting impression, especially late in the season, especially with such strong emotions involved, can really drum up support to get people rallying behind you. And I think on top of that, more than anything else, it shows you the power of what the edit does for the fan favorite vote, and why I ultimately hope that it never affects the game. Survivor Caramoan ended with a major blindside of Brenda, and many of the fans at the time responded accordingly, for better and for worse.
Eddie's gonna win.
You look like an Eddie.
Oh, thanks.
Your family, right?
Yeah, brother.
All right. The first one, Malcolm. The second one is in Miami, pregnant Brenda. Malcolm is the spring player of the season.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lastly, I should quickly mention, because I know that if I don't, I will definitely hear about it, that when Sprint dropped out as a sponsor after this season, the Fan Favorite Award officially ended, and from season 27 onward, no fan favorite votes have occurred. But in season 32, Survivor Co. Wrong, celebrity Sia, who's a big fan of the show, began to pop up at the reunions to donate money to her favorite players. This part of the reunions from season 32 onward has always had a tinge of the Fan Favorite Award, but it's really just been dubbed the Sia Award. The fans have nothing to do with it, unless you want to say it gives like a whole new meaning to fan favorite, emphasizing the singular aspect. Regardless, it's existed at Sia's whim, and while a spiritual successor of sorts, I can't say it's the same thing.
We happen to have a super fan who is Sia, this global pop star, but she just loves Survivor. And every season, she created her own award, the Sia Award.
And that's where we stand now in the long history of America's favorite player, aka the Sprint Player of the Season Award in Survivor. It's a long history that perhaps serves best as a time capsule of sorts. Not entirely sure what kind of treasured insights it's storing, but either way, there you go. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know how you feel about this part of the show's history. Did you vote for any of these people in this video? A big thank you to my patrons for supporting me in my endeavors to chronicle all this noise. And I just want to say, don't forget, on your way out, you've got my vote for favorite fan locked up. And I will see you in the next one once I go jump into Sia's DMs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm just doing something.
What? Okay, wait. This is this is not a moment. Okay, but I know who this is. Sia, come up. You don't have a mic.
I want to donate $50,000 to you. Wow. And I want to donate $50,000 to your choice of animal charity.
I love Applebee's. Applebee's is by far my favorite.
And I just want to say thank you for showing America how to be kind to animals.
I did everything I can for him up to this day, and it's up to fate now. Hopefully he won't be at someone's dinner anytime soon.
Oh my God, yes. This is the biggest reward, and we are gonna get this.
Go on.